But at the rear of the silver streak, there is something quite different. A carriage of gold, bearing the initials VF and IF, intertwined in imperial purple. The real-life VF and IF, otherwise known as Vasily and Irina Fedorov, are very much not intertwined. In fact, it would be hard to imagine two people sharing so confined a space in a more separate manner. Irina sits in a high-backed armchair, which is really more of a throne than a chair, her left foot soaking in a porcelain bowl full of rose oil, with petals floating on the surface, while a pinafore-clad woman kneels on the floor, vigorously scrubbing the sole of her right foot with seaweed picked up fresh from the port in Vladivostok before the train departed. Irina has a magazine in her hands, through which she flicks uninterestedly. The train will take 6 more days to arrive in Moscow, and cell phone coverage is practically non-existent, for all that cutting-edge technology they were promised. She cannot talk to her friends or her sister, cannot complain to them that being trapped in this gilded carriage with her husband makes her want to claw off her own skin, cannot tell them how his soft voice grates at her nerve endings, and that when he fixes her with his colorless, lifeless eyes behind those rimless glasses, she feels like a butterfly on a pin. And even if she could talk to them, what would they say? That they had warned her against marrying an outsider, when she could have had her pick from the old Russian families, generations as easily traceable as the veins on your wrist. That having made her misguided choice, she should console herself by spending his billions, a holiday home on Lake Valdai, an apartment in Knightsbridge, a villa on the French Riviera, lavish furnishings, a new yacht, more liposuction, longer hair extensions. By now she has had so many surgeries that when she stands in front of the mirror, she doesn't recognize her own face. Careful, he'd said, the last time she came back from that private hospital in Beverly Hills, standing behind her at her dressing table as he pulled the still tender skin on her cheeks back towards her hairline. If you stretch it anymore, it will tear like an old paper bag. The beautician, who is now using a pumice stone on the tougher skin of her heel, presses too hard. What's what you're doing? Irina kicks out, unbalancing the woman who puts out her hand to stop herself, nudging the porcelain tub and sending a small surge of water onto the plush carpet. Idiot. Across the carriage, almost as far as it is possible to be, Irina's husband looks up. But if he is angry at the disturbance, or concerned, or just curious even, it does not show in his flat, unremarkably featured face. He is sitting by the window in a matching armchair to his wife's, a polished wood desk in front of him, on which sits a laptop computer the size of a small briefcase. He is looking over his notes for the live televised debate he will take part in when he arrives in Moscow. They could have flown in, of course, on one of his 2 private jets, but it is all part of the campaign, this magisterial process through the parts of Russia most politicians ignore, sending a message to the dispossessed hordes in the rural backwaters that they have not been forgotten, not by him anyway, gathering up the populist vote one disaffected peasant at a time. At first he had wavered about the golden coach. The last 2 winners have been hard here. People are hungry. I don't want to be accused of flaunting my wealth, he had told his chief of staff. The man had raised his eyebrows. With all respect, you are coming to power on a commoner's ticket, he had said. The men who came from nothing to conquer the world. The people need you to embody everything they don't have. Why would they want to be represented by a man who has nothing they aspire to? By a man who is still just like them. Vasily Fedorov has gone to great lengths to prove his Russian credentials. He has invested hundreds of millions in technological infrastructure and national causes, has bought himself a mayorship, and set about ruthlessly, systematically cleaning up the streets of the city he ruled over, with the aid of his own highly trained private militia.